Okay, and we're back. You guys there?
Yep, still here.
Okay, cool. So this is the second part of the show called Lame Talk. The part we just finished was Game Talk. So in this section, we talk about things related to the game and also not so related to the game. The first part, although we talked about Jensen leaving WB in the first part, we'll continue on with community discussions in this segment. And to kick things off, it looks like Ogre is getting back into the swing of things. You're starting up new articles, I guess, new content on Reddit, as well as some videos. You want to share some thoughts on that?
Yeah, I started doing the articles, and I fell off a little bit this week. I'll try to get back into those again. Basically, I'm just doing community discussions on each individual character. That way, everybody has access to everybody's thoughts whenever they want to take a look at a character if they're interested in somebody. Mm-hmm. So that, they don't have to have the million question march every time it comes around.
Yeah,
on a character.
I definitely feel the need for that sort of what's the word here? That one-stop shop for everyone, so that everyone will we won't really need the floodgating if it's there. Yeah. I mean, that's great. It's just great to see you back on having the articles there, so that's good.
Yeah, I kind of skipped this week. Sorry.
It's all good. People are busy. I find it harder and harder to write as many articles as I do from like every week. I end up writing a lot of PSAs because I gloss over it really quickly when I'm at work. So, yeah. But getting into other content, YouTube content, we, personally, the Oddsmen, have started the Oddsmen YouTube channel. Originally, it was just a way to host the podcast on YouTube. It's basically audio only, and you're just staring at our album cover for the whole time. But we're also uploading now Ogre's videos on there too. So you want to share your thoughts on making videos?
I try to keep them short because I do all this off my phone. So the shorter the better for me, because it takes about as long to upload as it does to record it. So
yeah, now
probably longer.
A
little bit longer, yeah.
This, a lot longer than any of us. So what are your thoughts on YouTube content creation?
Nice now that iOS, because I play on iOS, and the iOS has a recorder finally, which has dramatically changed how I did it. I used to use a program on my laptop, and I would AirPlay them together, and it took forever. So now I can just record right off my iPad. The only downside to it is that it does seem to take longer to upload everything.
But yeah,
3 times longer to upload than it does to record.
I'm guessing the file size is just really huge then.
Yeah, they're multiple gigs.
Oh, okay. Well, I was thinking about doing that too if I upgraded my iOS, but maybe I'll hold off. I use another program that would allow me to record off iOS. It's called AirShow, but AirShow, its one problem is that it doesn't record the internal audio very well. So I think it's the same sort of program that Ogre uses. So the only way to actually hear what's going on in the game is that you have to play it through the speaker. So you'll be recording as through the mic, and it'll be recording the audio through the speaker of the phone or the device. So it's kind of weird.
Well, if you use the iOS recording and then you do the video editing in a program called Video Shop, it's just an app. Mm-hmm. But it is well worth I've tried every single one of them, and it's the only one that seems really good.
Okay. Like
super fast.
Personally, I'm thinking about actually doing some videos too, something to supplement the financial stuff and that I put out there, but something it's more of a resource management type of guide series that I want to put up on YouTube, but it'll basically just be me talking in front of like the shop window. That's about it. But I don't know. I mean, it's something to think about, because a lot of people seem to be liking that type of stuff. So I mean, what were your goals really to make content on YouTube? Why did you guys start?
I just started because I thought it would be fun.
Okay.
Because I was using some of the weirder characters on teams, and people kept asking me to post a video of it.
Okay. And Do you feel like it's something that you enjoy now? Like it's something that you really want to keep up with, or is it something that it's just sort of on the side for you?
Because I get a lot of comments on the YouTube videos now. I'm getting a lot of views, 1,000, 2,000 a video now, and
Nice.
Cool.
it's entertaining. It's a fun little diversion. It's a reason. It kind of keeps you, even when you're starting to get a little bit annoyed with the grind or the game itself. It kind of keeps you playing and gets you excited.
Yeah, fair. That's good. Okay. Well, I mean, in terms of YouTube content right now, it's pretty much all the same, but the one type of content that we don't really see much of is sort of just discussion or just a lot of it's more of the same stuff. It's all just PvP videos, really, right? So, I mean, what can we do with YouTube content that would be more original? That's basically what I'm getting at.
Well, I think your next guest, Superman, I know him by his username. He does more content based than PvP based on his videos.
Yeah, that's true. And his content's quite original, basically because he gets into it with his daughter, right? So that's actually really cute.
You cut out there.
Oh, sorry. I was saying that it's really original because on his side he's getting into it with his daughter, so it's a lot cuter, I guess.
And then
Yeah,
I
it's
was going to
definitely a
mention
unique
him.
take.
Sorry.
What was that?
They were saying in chat, Fanatic Jalapeno. He doesn't ever post on Reddit or the forums or anything, but he's got a huge following, and he talks about he gears his, I think, a little more towards like the like players that don't have maybe fantastic rosters. So he does live streaming, and people ask him what characters they should use, etc.
I mean, I think that Fanatic Jalapeno was definitely somebody that was on my mind in terms of like hosts or someone I would want to have on the show too. But the only problem was that I've never seen him on Reddit, so maybe he's not a Redditor, or maybe he's lurking. Who knows? But the main issue,
Or he has a different username.
Yeah, that's true. He could be someone we banned, for all we know. But anyways,
he doesn't. He doesn't interact with anybody unless you comment on his YouTube videos for the most part.
I've actually subscribed to him on our YouTube channel with the Oddsman. So I mean, basically, I want to keep our community sort of close knit because we were all here to sort of support each other, right? So I kind of want to have a lot of different YouTube creators on the show at some point, so that we can all sort of share our medium, right? Anyways, getting back to the issue though, is there something that we can do in terms of YouTube content that will sort of set us apart from each other? Because a lot of it's just basically like, let's see how we deal with the current meta using this PvP strategy or whatever it is, right? Is there something that we can do content-wise that could be more interesting and fun?
Yeah, I've been trying to come up with that one, and that was actually why I was talking to you about starting up the Oddsman actual DC Legends account. I kind of stopped playing that the last week or so, but that's why I started it, was because I wanted to show going through PvE again, what it's like for newer players. That way we have something for them. They don't have to just see high-end PvP and be bored. It's like, when am I going to get there? I'm never going to get there.
That's true. I mean, I'm actually still working on that account little by little, but
yeah, I'll get back into it. I've been busy this week.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I haven't really been playing it every day, just like every other day or something like that. But the idea is, if you guys don't know what we're talking about, Ogre and I have started up an Oddsman account, and it'll allow us to sort of share our experiences of going through a brand new account, basically from the ground up. Well, we've already pretty much gotten into it already, but it'll be completely free to play.
Yeah, we're like level 40 something.
Right. But the one thing that'll be unique about it is, because it's our second account, it'll be completely free to play, and it'll show people what you can and cannot do at certain levels and ways to get around those hurdles. Because my goal is to prove that nothing is impossible in this game, even though you find like a certain hurdle that you might not be able to overcome currently. There's a character in the game that'll help you do that, or there's some way that you can get around that if you plan for it correctly. So what we're trying to do is make sure that we're using our resources correctly, make sure we're farming the right things, and getting to where we need to be at the right times. So yeah, that's what we hopefully will be able to bring that to you in the near future.
Yeah.
But yeah, no promises on that, but sometime soon. Okay.
Or never. We don't know.
Right. Okay, let's get into some semi-related topics that are not directly related to DCL. Let's get into some comics, TV, movie-related stuff. So, keeping with the DC extended universe, let's get into TV. So, October and the last couple of weeks has been the restart of all the CW shows. Gotham. Well, Gotham is that CW or is that a different channel?
Not sure.
It's a different channel. It's on Fox or CBS, one of those two.
Okay. Well, there's Gotham, Arrow, Flash, Supergirl, and Legends of Tomorrow. They've all been restarted, and they're all at least a couple of episodes in, I believe. So, out of all those shows, first of all, which shows do you guys watch? I watch all of them. So, how about you guys?
I'm current on Flash. I think I've watched all the way through season 3 at this point. I've only watched the first 2 seasons of Arrow. I think I've watched the first episode of Supergirl. And like one half of a random episode of Legend of Tomorrow. Haven't seen Gotham at all.
Okay. How about you, Hatemael?
I've watched some Supergirl. I haven't started this season yet of Arrow, but I've watched all of Arrow, watched all of Flash. I've seen the first episode of this season. I'm up to date. Well, except for the last episode that just aired on Gotham. It was tomorrow, really. I watched some of the first season.
Okay. Out of all those shows, what are your actual thoughts on them so far, you guys?
I really like them. I like where they're going with them. And I'm just a fan of the comics. So season 2 of Arrow, when they fought Deathstroke, I loved it. I was like, ah!
I like the guy that.
And then I love Flash.
I love the guy they cast as Slade. He was a great actor.
Oh God, yeah, he was amazing.
Yeah.
Love Gotham. That's my favorite of the bunch. Arrow got really rough for a while there, but
definitely.
At season 4 got great again.
Yeah.
Flash, he's just too much of a crybaby for me.
The character leaves a lot to be desired. The one thing I'd like about the Flash though is the writing. The writing is okay. Like I think the writing is a lot better than some of the other series. Like it's been solid overall. Like the only thing is the character himself, it just comes off really whiny. Like the actor, maybe it's the actor. I'm not sure what it is, but I get it. I definitely get it.
But it's the way that they write him.
Yeah.
The Barry Allen versus Wally West. I mean, it depends on which version of Flash you're going with, and they went with Barry Allen, who is a little bit more reluctant, I guess.
Now
he cried literally every episode.
Yeah.
Now,
oh man, geez, guys, I can't do it.
There was somebody dying.
Not to do any.
Yeah. But I mean,
well, in this season, I think they did on the first episode, not to spoil it. It's a no spoiler comment, but they did something with the storyline that basically has him having a more positive outlook. Doing that because they got so many complaints.
Well, that'd be cool.
They introduced a new type of weed in Flashpoint.
I went to a Comic-Con and it had the guy who plays Barry and Killer Frost, and they were doing a panel that we sat in, and that got even mentioned during that.
Now, since I watch,
so they are very aware.
Yeah, since I watch all of the shows, I actually have a biased point of view to most of the CW shows. The one thing that I'll agree with, though, is that most people will think that Legends of Tomorrow is kind of a joke, and it is kind of a joke. But it is sort of that comic relief that ties the other 3 shows together, because all 4 of those shows cross over a lot, right? So the thing about Legends of Tomorrow is that all the what's the word here? All the support characters from the other shows got together and made their own show, right? So it being a spin-off of the other shows is exactly what it's supposed to be. But at the same time, I mean, if you kind of go into it thinking that, you'll have a good time, right? It's like, you know that it's a B movie, but if you go into it with low expectations, you'll probably come out, somewhat satisfied. So I feel like it's.
I say a lot of times you're watching B movies because they are B movies.
Exactly, right? So yeah.
It's like, oh, this sounds hilarious.
But I'm with Hatemail. Gotham is my favorite out of all those shows. Gotham is sort of.
I really should start watching it.
It is a great show. It's sort of a
storyline, great acting.
Yeah, it's a gritty, sort of darker show compared to the other ones, because the other ones are more upbeat, more positive, and all about the heroes.
Well, Arrow started out darker.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
They kind of evolved him to be a little bit lighter. So.
Yeah, but Gotham is on a whole different level. Gotham's not about the characters themselves. It's more about like the actual city. That's why it's called Gotham, right? And it's about Commissioner Gordon. It's about police. It's about the little interactions between people, and it's all about like the corrupt world that they live in, right?
The villains, they really spotlight the villains more than any show.
This season and the last season in particular, there was a lot of character development, which is really what hooked me on the show, which really kept me going. I actually, around season 2, I was kind of debating whether or not, should I keep going with this show or not? But by season 3, I really stuck with it after that point, because there was a lot of development and a lot of stuff that really was like, wow, okay, this guy's actually coming out now, or this character is really, being developed well. So it sort of made me happy. That sort of nerd part of me, little geek part of me, got really lit up.
I love that they focus so much on the villain characters. Like they are the main characters.
Right.
It's not just the
right.
Well, to be fair, you only ever watched Batman as a kid on TV because of the villains. It wasn't because Batman was super cool.
That's where a lot of people online
agree to disagree. But.
Exactly. See, now I personally like Batman as a character himself too, and I watched Batman because of Batman. But at the same time, now we're looking at not just Batman, but Commissioner Gordon and the rest of the Gotham, like how they interact with the villains and everyone else too. But it's not about it's not like Smallville. It's not like we're watching, Clark Kent grow up to become Superman, right? Although we know that Bruce Wayne will eventually get there. But that journey is what's interesting, right? It's what's fun. And what's really it's really keeping me in is how they're, making that journey get there, and I'm trying to say as much without saying as much.
I think you can say that they're going into the storyline of Batman Year One, or pre-Batman Year One, and I don't think that's spoiling because everybody knows he becomes Batman. Yeah. But they're taking the storyline in that direction, so you're actually getting to watch that, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, no, I really don't want to spoil Smallville for anyone, but I mean, at this point, it's been a long enough time, so
I haven't seen it.
Okay. Okay, fine.
I don't care.
Anyway,
I don't care. It's fine.
Smallville is basically just like you watch Clark Kent being Clark Kent and the whole way up until the last episode where he finally becomes Superman, right? But I mean, to be honest though, this series of Gotham I thought was going to be like that too. I thought it was going to be like we're never going to see him become Batman, but we see that they're taking.
And I think we're gonna.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing that's actually making me a lot more excited for this season. It's because we're seeing that they're taking the steps necessary to put him on that path, and that's a lot faster than Smallville did. Right?
3 or 4 years from now, we may actually have a show about Batman.
Exactly. Yeah. So another thing related to that, do you guys know anything about Black Lightning?
I've seen the preview for it, but that's it.
So what do you think about the preview?
It looks interesting.
So for those of you
don't really know what to say, I mean,
for those of you who don't already know, Black Lightning has been announced as another CW show, but it will not be part of the Arrowverse. So it'll be an exclusive standalone thing, kind of like Gotham, but it'll be part of the CW franchise. That's all. So I'm wondering why exactly they're planning to do that, and sort of what spin they're going to do. Like, are they going to introduce characters in Black Lightning and then not in the Arrowverse, for example? So what do you think about that, Ogre?
Well, I didn't it say it was on Earth 23 or something?
Oh, is that why? It's just in a different dimension?
Yeah, I thought that was why.
Oh, okay. So they can
the other heroes don't exist, and that was why Black Lightning had to step up.
But they really specifically said there'll never be a crossover with the Arrowverse. But then if it was in another dimension, Flash could always get there, right?
Right, Flash would be the only one who could.
Yeah, right. Flash and Supergirl, right? So Flash and Supergirl, they did that many times. So yeah, but anyways, I mean,
right. But I think that they want to leave it separate because they know the success that the other ones are having, and they don't want to build off of that necessarily. Since it's a character, I think that they're, wanting to make on his own. Because isn't he kind of an unknown character for the most part?
He is kind of unknown.
I don't know why they wouldn't make it part of the Arrowverse, though. You would think that why not just, give yourself that ability? You can be a long ways away.
Maybe it's because they already have the black guy as Mr. Terrific, or who are the other black? Firestorm, right? So I mean, they don't want to have too many, right? But I mean, anyway.
I don't think that's what it is, but
I mean, I think that Black Lightning as a character is also really, really, really interesting too. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on him as a character and him having his own show?
I think it's interesting that they decided to pick him versus some of the other ones that they could have. But I think they picked him because they wanted it to be separated.
So what do you think, Hatemael, about Black Lightning?
I think a lot of it is because you don't know a lot about it, you have a lot of writing liberty. When you have a more unknown character, people aren't going to complain if you don't follow the storyline to a certain point.
Right.
Exactly.
I mean,
gives them a little more freedom.
The Arrowverse, so they can just write and do whatever they want.
I'll be completely honest with you. I knew that Black Lightning was a part of the DC universe, and that was the extent of it. So when they announced him as a character, I looked him up and I glossed over his Wikipedia a bit, and that was the base of my knowledge. So, I mean, as a character, he just seems he's really fun, and I thought that he was going to be one of the characters spoiled. I can't remember how many months ago it was, but there was something electric. I think it was Livewire. We thought it was going to be Black Lightning. That might have been what it was.
Oh yeah.
Right. I think instead of
it made sense that they put Livewire in instead.
Yeah, but instead of Cyborg Superman, I thought it was Black Lightning or something. But anyways, okay. So he seems fun. Seems interesting. We'll see what comes of that. Now, in other news, moving away from TV, let's get to movies. With Justice League around the corner, before we step into that, let's talk about Wonder Woman. Everyone's favorite Gal Gadot has recently gotten some criticisms by James Cameron. So, yeah. Have you guys looked at that at all yet?
I haven't really looked at it. I've talked to you a little bit. That's about the extent of my knowledge.
Okay. So for those of you who don't already know, James Cameron posted it on Twitter, I believe, that basically Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman is a step in the wrong direction or step backwards, actually, is his actual wording, for women in film. And it's actually contrary to a lot of what people say about her as an actress, Gal Gadot. And I think a lot of us, even on Reddit, were giving a lot of praise to her as an actress and Wonder Woman as a character. To be honestly, I think that I was actually really happy with her as Wonder Woman, mainly because I feel that she single-handedly saved the DCEU in terms of Hollywood, right? I feel like it was sinking, and like Suicide Squad didn't help anything. Batman vs. Superman was okay, but not great. But Wonder Woman sort of just lifted it like all the way back up to Marvel competitiveness. I mean, what are your thoughts on her and her Wonder Woman before we get into James Cameron?
I thought she was
okay. So I thought she was really good, but at the same time, now that I'm thinking about it, I kind of see what he was saying. Like, I understand what he's going with. I'm not sure he expressed it in an appropriate way for someone in his position, but I mean, to each their own. So, I mean, I understand where he's coming from, but I understand at the same time everybody else loves her and wants her to do well. So, I mean, as far as it goes, I can't really say one way or the other.
I don't understand where his logic is, though. I mean, she's one of the more famous female comic book characters over the last 100 years. And, a lot of people liked Wonder Woman, but they didn't really like an iconic character. In Batman versus Superman, she was cool. She was a neat character, but she didn't really play a central role. My wife, she likes some of the comic book movies, but she doesn't really care for them, and she was not excited about seeing Wonder Woman at all. Left that movie thinking that movie was awesome.
And I completely know many people in the same situation who aren't really comic book fans even at all, but regular moviegoers really appreciated the film for what it was. Not
You're cutting out.
Not just it being a superhero movie, but a lot of people appreciated it for the fact that it was a great piece of cinema. So I'm going to read to you what he actually said. I think it was on Twitter. It was an interview with The Guardian. So I think that's a British paper. But he said, and I quote, "All of the self-congratulatory back-patting Hollywood's been doing over Wonder Woman has been so misguided." Then he says, "She's an objectified icon, and it's just male Hollywood doing the same old thing. I'm not saying I didn't like the movie, but to me, it's a step backwards." And that was his comment. So
Yeah, I understand that. I actually do, because honestly, the Wonder Woman that I saw Gal Gadot play was too over-sexualized and feminine comparatively to what she is in the comics, where she is this really strong Amazonian, and like I did not get that from Gal Gadot. Like, she just came off a little weak at times. So
what do you think, Hatemael?
But you could say the same thing about Thor. I mean, if this was a female-dominated society, we want attractive people on our movies. I mean, that's just what people would rather stare at for 2.5 hours. So I think society as a whole has become so PC that, unless we have a 400-pound hulking woman up there,
I mean,
yeah.
I had someone argue this point for me. I can't remember when it was, but it was at work when I was talking to someone about this James Cameron thing, and they said, "Well, let's look at it this way. As Ogre said, Wonder Woman is portrayed as this huge hulking Amazonian, right? And if you look at how she's drawn in the comics and in the animated series, she's really buff. She's really, really big. She rivals Superman in size, right? But I mean, if you think about an actress that would be like the real Wonder Woman from the comics and from the animated series, who would it be? So would you go watch a Wonder Woman movie featuring China from WWF? Do you remember that?
Yeah,
I mean,
she's passed away since then, but
I mean someone like her, right?
But if she was to play, I would have cast her as Wonder Woman.
Would you? But
Yeah.
The question is, would you go watch the movie with her in it? Now, that would it sell tickets? That's really what we're getting it back to, right? So I mean,
I think honestly, as a WWE personality, she would have sold tickets.
You think so?
I think so.
I mean,
you couldn't necessarily cast like a fitness enthusiast model, competitor, just randomly off the street for her. But if you would cast somebody like China, who had a following already, people would have seen that movie.
That's fair.
I don't know if it would have got the same.
It wouldn't have got the same thing, no. But I still think people would have seen it.
I mean,
there's also a lot of comics where she's not drawn that. I mean, she's drawn more in line with the movie. You still see that in different iterations.
Yeah.
Yeah, it varies.
Yeah. I mean, she's been changed over and over again throughout time. So the question at the end of the day is more of like, what is it that we want as a collective audience? Do we want someone who's truer to the core content, or do we want someone that would be more appealing, more easy on the eyes, right? So, anyways,
that's Hollywood versus comics every day. So
that's true. Yeah,
comics are going to give you one thing. Hollywood's going to give you something else.
Fair enough. Okay, so getting to another movie-related piece of news that I think pretty much everyone wants to talk about. Next month's movie, The Justice League. Finally, it's coming out. So
looks amazing.
Right. Have you guys seen all the trailers up to date?
Yes.
Hatemael?
Yeah, I've seen everything. I'm super, super excited. And in that same Wonder Woman argument, we could talk about Aquaman here.
Jason.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a different version of Aquaman.
Yeah, he's
nowhere near as buff. Yeah. He doesn't have the blonde hair. Like, he's got long hair for that matter.
He's a surfer.
He really is. That's all it is.
I mean, I mean, to be honest though, I actually really like Jason Momoa as an actor, so I'm actually really happy that he's there. So, you know, I really feel that it's a great take on Aquaman, but that's more of like a preferential acting based bias. But as a character, it is quite different from the core material. So yeah, I'll give you that.
And I don't think, like before, like we were saying, I don't think you have to stick strictly to the comics.
Yeah.
You don't have to. You can have some liberty to cast. Like, who's going to complain that Gal Gadot has brown eyes versus Wonder Woman having blue eyes? Nobody cares. At the end of the day,
Right.
you know, I mean, there's certain things that you can't get around.
Yeah.
So make work what you have, and when they do a good job, it works. If they don't, then people will complain about it.
Right. Now, in terms
Model
of
after the movie after this one.
in terms of the trailers, right? What we've seen now, I think it's pretty safe to say that spoiler alert for those of you who don't want to be spoiled, but it's pretty safe to say that Steppenwolf is the main villain of the movie, right?
I think it's been established, yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like.
It seems like in the most recent trailer, the one with the heroes feature, it's like Steppenwolf is raising an army. Now, from what I know of Steppenwolf, he's the general that leads the way for Darkseid to follow in line after him, right?
Yeah.
Right. But does he actually have an army that follows him? I thought he was just the general, but he was only fighting by himself.
So the army that you're seeing is something that happens when Darkseid invades the planet. He'll capture people, turn them into these bug-looking things, and then use them to take over the rest of the planet. Essentially, at least that's how I understand it.
Okay. What do you think, Hatemael, from that clip in the trailer?
I'm just wondering if Darkseid's going to be in the movie at some point. Or
I think it'll be a Thanos level.
I think that
build up like
it'll be like that thing at the end of the Avengers, right, where Thanos says, "Okay, I'll do it myself." It'll be like Darkseid pulling a Thanos at the end.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're going to do. Because if anything,
they've already established that the Justice League movie will be in 2 parts, right? So the second part will probably be the coming of Darkseid.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
like that's what people want. They want to see the big villain.
Now, the one thing, I guess, the elephant in the room for most Justice League movie followers, in terms of news, is Superman's part in the movie. Now, I'm pretty sure everyone knows that Dark Superman will be in the movie because Henry Cavill has been very vocal on Twitter, and he's in the casting, like the cast list on the movie. So, I mean, unless he's playing somebody else, I'm pretty sure Superman's going to be in the movie. Right, even though he's not on any of the posters or anything.
I don't know if it's going to be Superman or if it's just going to be Clark.
That's true. It could be just Clark. It could just be a bunch of flashbacks or something, right?
That's kind of what I'm leaning towards. It's going to be flashback kind of style.
Maybe they'll bring him back in the second movie.
Right.
I mean, we all know that he's going to get resurrected at some point. It's going to happen. It's just whether it's going to be during this movie, at the end of this movie, in the next movie, we don't know.
Right. Now, although this is another semi-spoiler alert, but then this is just me speculating, I feel like this is a great moment for them to show the resurrection of Superman, the rebirth of Superman, because he in every iteration of it, it's always after he fights Doomsday. So this is right after the Batman v Superman. He dies to Doomsday, and he comes back when the Justice League is in the works, right? And my guess is that at this point, Batman, Flash, Cyborg, Aquaman, and Wonder Woman start battling against all these creatures from another dimension with maybe the help of the Amazonians. Things get a little bit hairy, and then Superman shows up at the last minute to save the day, in the way he always does. The question is,
that would be fitting.
Now, in most of the iterations of Superman Rebirth, if this actually does happen in this movie, will he be sporting the black suit or not?
I don't see the black suit.
You don't see it?
Well, a couple of the leaked spoiler type things, like it was black suit. So
now there's been a lot. I've seen those spoilers too. Now I don't think that. Now there's a lot of people saying that it's just photoshopped because a lot of it just looks like his blue and red suit just with a black coating over it, right? So if you look at the comics and the other animated series where he's been reborn, a lot of the times you see his suit is sort of like the old General Zod Kryptonian suit. It kind of looks like that with no cape or nothing, right? So I don't know if the spoilers you've seen, does he have the cape on or not?
No cape. And that was somebody posting in the line chat the other week.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I'll have to find that then, but I don't know. Either way, we don't even know if he's going to be.
Like, I could totally agree with you though.
Yeah.
About everybody fighting and everything and getting dire.
Yeah.
During the fight with Steppenwolf.
Yeah.
If he is in fact the main villain.
Yeah.
And getting their butts kicked there, and then he shows up to turn the tides, and that could totally work.
And in the trailer, I think the second last trailer, it's like we all want to know who Alfred's talking to. So, do you think it's him, or do you think it's someone else?
That's a tricky one. It could be him. It could be Flash. It could be Cyborg.
What do you think, Hatemael?
To potentially being him. I think they're probably going to put Superman, because even a lot of the previews have his logo and stuff in it. I think he's going to make an appearance at some point in this movie.
Yeah.
It would be fitting dialogue.
It would just make complete sense. But I think that they're gonna keep it to the very last moment to bring the hype at the very end of the movie, or something like that, right? So to bring it, like, to give it that climax. So
yeah.
Aside from Superman, though, I mean, I'll always pick him. But who are your favorite slash characters in the movie so far, from what you know?
I'm looking forward to seeing Flash in action. The way that they have him done in the previews is really awesome. I'm also really hoping Cyborg is awesome, because I love Cyborg from Teen Titans, but every other iteration of Cyborg that I've seen, I really just
Right. For me,
like, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Aquaman, he just looks. I like the way they're re-portraying Aquaman as a drunken, badass.
I'm actually quite torn between Jason Momoa and Ezra Miller, because Ezra Miller is probably, like, if I were to put myself in his shoes, I would be so happy to be where he is, because he's a huge comic book geek, right? And the fact that he gets to play one of his favorite characters is probably a dream come true for him, right? And I can see that carrying over to his role, and I really, really hope that he'll put an amazing appearance on the show, on the silver screen. And even from the clips that we saw in the trailers, he just comes off as exactly what Barry Allen should be, a Joker. He's sort of like, he has that sort of comic punch to him. So
it's funny, because at one point everybody was upset that Flash wasn't gonna from the TV show wasn't picked, and then after he got to cry every episode, everybody's like, well, maybe he's not so bad, and now everybody's super excited.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that Ezra Miller, he definitely feels like the Flash from the animated series. If you guys ever watched that one, he has that sort of that comic nature to him. Whereas the Barry Allen from the TV show, he comes off as Barry Allen in some indirect way, but not in a very direct way, right? So I think Ezra Miller is probably the person I'm most excited for, and Jason Momoa just because he's a new take on Aquaman. So
it's going to add the way this Flash is going to be. It's going to add to that comic relief that, as we all know from the Marvel movies, works. I think Marvel's going to push it a little over the edge at the next couple movies. It's starting to.
I feel like the Thor movies are going to be like a complete comedy.
You're cutting out.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, like, if we're thinking about the Thor movie, for example, I think it's going to be a complete comedy.
Still cut out.
Oh.
Cut out.
I was just talking about the Thor movie, but it's
a Thor movie looks like it's going to be a big time. Like, it's going to be a comedy, not an action movie anymore. And I hope
it's a buddy action flick, is what it is.
Yeah.
It's a buddy action flick. It's Thor and Hulk just smashing things, having a good time.
Be fun, but I hope DC doesn't go quite that far. But Wonder Woman was kind of the perfect blend, because there was some parts that gave you a good laugh, but it didn't go over the top.
Yeah. Okay. Well, moving on from there, I was going to actually talk about some other things in the news that are like more related to real life, but I actually feel like we're getting close on time, so I'll just skip over that this week, or sorry, this month. So the otherwise, let's move on to questions and we'll wrap it up there. So normally we'll pick a couple of questions from Reddit and then a couple of questions from chat. So if any of you guys who are currently listening right now, feel free to answer some questions, ask some questions, and we'll answer them while we are reading the chat. But we'll start off with some questions on Reddit, so that way I'll give you guys some time to type it out. First of all, Tech Paradox, he asked a couple of questions related to Dr. Fate and Lobo. I think we addressed a little bit of this when we were talking about them before. But first, Dr. Fate, do any of you have him leveled up to the point where you can tell if his Gear 11 stats will give him the survivability he needs to capitalize on his new heal blocking, or is he still going to be a target for any red that crosses the field, requiring us to bring other taunters to keep the heat off of him? I think we talked about that a little bit.
I think you're going to have to bring a taunter because he's got one of those gear sets that's not going to give him a lot of survivability.
Hatemael?
He doesn't die instantaneously, but he doesn't have a ton of life, so he does need a little bit of support.
Yeah.
He's going to have to be blocked.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
like, as long as he can get to his turn to get up that shield, usually that should be enough, I would think.
Yeah.
As long as he doesn't have a powerhouse red hitting him.
I really hope that he does get to the point where he'll be viable, but I definitely feel like if he needs to have someone protecting him all the time, it's going to be hard to make him like super great, because it'll limit obviously the choices you have in team compositions, right? Because you're always going to have to dedicate a slot or two to protecting him. But at the same time,
blues though do require that unless they're a Grundy or a Vixen.
That's true.
So
yeah.
I mean,
or
blues
DOJ,
die too fast.
Or DOJ, right? Yeah, that's about it.
He's the only other one. One thing I was going to mention real quick on Dr. Fate, Percy Lurcy, he's on our in my alliance. He's got just one of the most insane rosters you'll ever see, and he actually has been running Dr. Fate as a leader.
Wow.
Guess when Stroke gets his heal, he gets silenced, and then he gets awareness. So, and a lot of times Fate will die, but he doesn't use them with a taunter either, because he gets targeted, so it lets his other characters build up. And I've watched some videos and it actually works. So I'm half tempted to try it myself as soon as I hit L4.
I'd like to see that too. That'd be very interesting. It'll definitely bring up some ideas for ways to build them. Okay, cool. The next question that Tech Paradox asked was about Lobo. Any thoughts on Lobo's rework? Half nerfed or still viable once you boost him into the 60s? Think they'll give us a reason to force players using the Lobo, as in baby Lobo strategy, to upgrade his gear. So what do you guys think about Lobo in general?
Well, I like Lobo. What's that?
Earlier, I still think that you don't want to upgrade his gear just yet unless you're looking for a bleed comp. If you're trying to do anything else, leaving him a lower rank still seems to be stronger if you're wanting to use the Deathstroke combo.
Yeah.
So I think we've talked about Lobo enough earlier on, but basically he's at the point where people are split between him and the Deathstroke combo. So whether or not it's something that's a necessary evil or something that's sort of just plaguing PvP, it still remains to be seen. But I mean, it's basically no real different from last month. The question is, will things change with new things that are coming into the game next month? We'll see, I guess.
It really depends on who the reworks and new characters are.
Exactly. Okay, the next question from Reddit was BG Bat. He asked about Grundy, and he asked, his taunt adding speed and turn meter seems counterintuitive to me. Taunt coupled with turn meter and speed buffs reduces the time that Grundy is taunting. Shouldn't the turn meter and speed ups be somewhere else or not at all? Is the difference with turn meter and speed buffs not as big of a deal as I think it is? I've been playing with a newly geared Gear 11 level 70 Grundy and simply left his taunt at 1. 1 out of, I'm guessing 1 out of 8 or something like that. He's performing very
9,
well.
I think.
Yeah, he's performing very well within the current meta. Doesn't seem to need the speed. What are your thoughts?
Okay, so if you're going to take the legendary upgrade for it, upgrade the skill to max as well, because you're turning him into a ramp at that point and you're literally just ramping him to his big hit with his basic. You're not actually using it for the taunt at that point. Why they put it there, and they could have put it somewhere else, yes, probably, but it's not, whatever, you know.
Okay.
So I think that Grundy, like I said before, he definitely has a couple of ways to build him. If you're taking the legendary upgrade on the taunt, you're not using it for the taunt. You're using it so he'll get to his basic hit, which hits really hard.
Okay.
You know, as fast as possible. That's all it is. Is basically you're literally using that to get his enraged basic.
Now, but what he's asking also is that he's basically saying that we don't need the speed at all. Is that actually true, you feel?
Okay, so yeah, like I said, it's really depends on how you want to build him. If you're building him for the ramp, then take it. If you don't build him for the ramp and you want him to be a meat shield, then yes, you definitely want to leave that a little bit lower so that he'll have time to taunt. Because you don't necessarily want him to gain that turn meter. You want him to be the slow Grundy that he is, take those hits.
So those two things will never be together then, right? In that way? Like you have to do one
typically
or
no.
the other. Right? You can't be doing both.
Typically, yeah.
They counteract each other. Right. So, I mean, Hatemael, do you have any thoughts on Grundy?
I don't find it particularly useful just because when you hit when it gets around to his turn, you hit it. It doesn't speed him up enough. All he does is kind of go before your other characters on your own team. So I don't feel like it gives. I don't see a big value in it for that reason.
Okay.
Also, the speed ups only last one turn, apparently.
Oh, okay. That's not that useful.
So, like, literally all it is he'll have a speed equivalent to 130 with the speed ups, plus he gained 40% meter. So he should take his second turn before most characters get their second turn. So it's essentially you're taking a slower first turn to use your basic attack as a stronger version of it.
Okay. So
personally, I'd rather just use the AoE.
Okay.
Yeah, no, like I use him with his AoE most of the time, just to get the 4 strength ups and pound away, which still hits really hard too.
Okay, so the next question from Reddit and the last one from Reddit will be from Verderwisp. I don't know how to pronounce his name because the last 3 letters are WSP, but I'm gonna go with Verderwisp. I think he's from the Forgotten Heroes here on Discord. His question is, favorite underrated characters pre-Gear 11 HP fix that are now really good?
Go ahead, Hatemael. I'm gonna let you tackle that one first.
Surprisingly, I've started using her a lot more frequently lately, is Hawkgirl, because she was 4 Gear 11, but now she has enough life. And I know they didn't do a stated change, but I feel like her stun procs significantly more used to. Reason why.
Okay. Could just be bias.
For whatever reason, I'm noticing. And the other one, the biggest one I would say, is I just blanked out his name. Bizarro.
Ooh.
Turned into quite a good character now, especially with the bleeds with the Lobos, because when you hit that the damage immunity from bleeding, you can take quite a few hits, and especially you don't even see that many blues anymore, so you don't have much of a threat.
Cool.
Finding him to be quite useful.
I was watching your Bizarro video.
Bizarro is a character I wish I could get more shards of.
I have him at Legendary 1. And I think
because I can't complete Red Alert.
He's on my to-do list right now. Like, I eventually want to have a team of Superman, Cyborg Superman, Bizarro, and some other iteration of Superman. Maybe Supergirl, but...
Go figure.
But, I mean...
And this meta Superman's really good, too, which he after the rework, I wasn't that impressed, but now with all the changes, he's my leader. I put him in leadership on a huge number of my teams.
I was gonna say Superman too, but then he was a little bit better than he was previously from last month 2 months ago when he was reworked. So I kind of took him off that category of characters that were underrated because I guess he was rated pretty highly before. But for me, I'm just going over my roster right now as we're talking. I think that the characters that sort of stand out now with the new fixes are probably characters that just gain a lot more survivability and let their mechanics finally come through. And even though she's not one that I currently have that I can use, it's Ivy. I think Ivy is one of the characters now that'll really have a chance to shine, right? Because before she was way too slow to just survive, and now she has enough time to get there, right? So, yeah. So,
yeah, Ivy is a character that boosted up quite a bit. I like Camo a lot right now. His survivability is insane. I think SS Lex actually gained quite a bit too with the change, because at Gear 11, SS Lex and a couple others actually gained like 10,000 HP. So they do have a lot more survivability, a lot more viability in that support role.
I think
than they did previously.
I think Chemo wins the award for the most underrated character that got really good.
He was good before. He's just way better now.
Oh yeah, definitely. Okay, so
he was definitely the most underrated.
Okay, so that wraps up questions.
Yeah, people complain about him a lot, but he's really good.
So that wraps up questions from Reddit. We'll answer some questions that the chat are asking us. So we'll go with one question from Channel Fireball's Ben David. Ben David asks, what is the optimal gear level aside team composition strategy to clear red alerts? What do you guys think?
It really depends on what level you are. Like, I haven't completed it because when red alerts came out, I was already level 70. I already had stupid high powerful characters. I wish I had stayed lower level and been able to spread it out over my characters a little bit better. So, but I know something that we also noticed when we restarted and had the new account going for the oddsman, you can clear them in the early game. So basically, just as long as you level up your characters and put their gear up appropriately throughout your whole roster, well, not your whole roster, but within reason, your roster, like as long as you spread it out, you should be okay.
What do you think?
I'm able to clear it. I clear it every day just about, unless I don't need any of the shards and I'm pressed for time, because it is pretty time consuming now. And I look for affinity advantages. Mainly look for either green heavy teams. Those are the ones my favorite. I'll pick those over any other, so I can use healers. So I'll usually run with Enchantress, Star Sapphire, and Wonder Woman DOJ if I see a 3 green plus whatever character, unless it's Harley. I avoid all Harley, Livewire, and Deathstroke teams in red alerts.
Same.
I'm just going to lose too many characters.
It's exactly the same thing that I do. Now, there's 2 or 3 different strategies for newer players. It depends really on the depth of your roster. So if we're
cut out, DP.
Sorry, I was saying, depending on what level of character or what level of player you're at, so your strategy is going to be very different. But most of the time, the strategy that proves very well is that you have to have a very diverse roster. So I would aim for at least 3 or 4 characters of each affinity and have them reasonably all at the same level. So you basically don't want, like, let's say, for example, you're at level 50. You don't want one guy at level 60 and everyone else at level 50. You want everybody at level 50. So that the idea is that you want it to be more balanced so that if one guy dies, the rest of your team doesn't just get crippled. The reason being is because red alert scales with your overall team's power level. So if a couple of guys are a little bit more powerful than the others, you'll notice an increased difficulty in red alerts. So you kind of want to progressively get there, not just suddenly jump there. Right.
Once you hit level 72 with at least 4 characters, you get pretty much all. Well, I have 1 5-star legendary character, and I face almost exclusively all legendary 5 level 80 characters.
Yeah, and then
that makes no sense.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. Now, another strategy that works too, depending on what level you're on, is that the Deathstroke Lobo combo actually works really well in red alerts. I've actually cleared it several times without actually having to change my team at all. So I played, I think,
and Grundy work great.
Right. So I had a series, like, this is before I got gear 11, but at gear 10, I had just basically Deathstroke, Lobo, Grundy, and Doomsday or Swamp Thing. And you just infinitely revive all the time, and Deathstroke just kills everybody. But if you don't have that in your roster, the other thing you can do is basically prioritize things that carry over well, like shields and overheals. So Hal Jordan Green Lantern is probably the best energy character you can have at lower stages of the.
Probably the best leader.
Probably one of
He's the best leader in Red Alerts.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. And then,
Like everybody can get him. He's super easy to farm.
Yep.
Hands down, he's the best leader to start with.
Yep. So
If you have other options, cool, but he's definitely one of the best.
right. So most of the time you'll have Hal as your leader, and then just sub in the other guys on your team based on what the other affinity advantages you need based on the team compositions. And as the other guys were saying, look towards what the other enemies' teams are looking like, and some people don't even notice the fact that you can actually pick and choose which threats you want to fight. So you don't actually have to fight the first one in order. You can scroll down and pick other ones. Some people didn't even know that.
They change between each match.
Right.
In case you didn't know.
Yeah.
And like you said, Deadshot Hired Gun, I don't have him gear 11, but I know several people in my lines use him in sicker teams.
I use him usually for the last 2 fights. Basically, when I'm at a point where I think that maybe a couple of guys on my roster have been knocked out, and I need a quick way to finish things off, I'll just put him in, put my 3 strongest guys that have their moves on off cooldown, and they'll come in, just wipe out 3 of the other characters, and then slowly pick apart the last guy. So, yeah, he's great for Red Alerts too. Okay, so moving on from...
One more thing I want to add on the power level for Red Alerts. Just a note, your tank characters, you can actually go up a little higher because, for whatever reason, tank characters have a lower power level.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So that means you can ramp up a little bit more on them.
You can level them up, gear them up a little bit higher than you would everybody else because their power rating is like 200-300 points lower typically
Right.
than
Right.
like a fast attack person.
So that means on Hal Jordan Green Lantern, he's probably, like as you guys said, the best.
Yeah, he'll be a couple hundred points behind at the same,
Right.
gear and level.
So you could have
So
him
you
at
can take him a little bit higher.
So you could have him at like 65 and the others at 60, and that's okay.
Right. And they would all be the same power level at that point,
Right. Cool.
in theory.
Right. Good to note. Okay, another question was from JC23AKD from the Shinsengumi Alliance. He says, I'm free to play, so which characters are a must if I want to gear 11? So that's a question a lot of people have been asking. What are like the must gear 11 guys?
I'm really high on Cheetah as a free to play. She's really good.
Actually, I've never geared up Cheetah, which I've always wanted to, but I mean, I hate to say it, but Deathstroke is probably one you want to do gear 11. DOJ is another one.
Okay.
Versatile.
If you have DOJ, but as the thing is, Deathstroke and DOJ are both not very easy to obtain as a free to play. Although Deathstroke does have his event coming, but like for characters that are farmable within PvE, let's say, those are the easy to obtain characters. I think you really want to look at Cheetah and Hal Jordan as your 2 primaries, probably.
Personally, I have an attachment to what's his name, Green Lantern. Oh, who's Templar Punk's out the line. Okay, so yeah, Green Lantern Hal Jordan. Apparently, he's probably one of the best and easiest to farm at the early stage of the game. So, and in PvP right now, also he's quite strong. I would say, like based on most of the metagame, he's at Legendary 2 or 3. When you get his Purge Hammer and his Call Assist, he's basically good to go at that point. So if you get him to gear 11, he's super tank. He's really, really tanky. So yeah, he's a must, I think.
I would say Harley. I mean, she's farmable and she's ridiculously powerful.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Yeah, Harley's really good too.
Harley Quinn Mad Jester was my first gear 11 out of all my gear 11s right now. So yeah, definitely agree with that. Okay, let's go with one more question and then we'll wrap things up. What was the next question on the line? It was from Mr. Scotty Mac from Channel Fireball. What legendary level do you need soups at in order to actually be good. Superman, I guess he's saying. And I think at least level 2, he's thinking level 2 with buff immune and leadership ability. What do you guys think?
I would say those are exactly the two that I would say are really needed for him. And if you don't plan to use him as leader, you could get by an L1 with just the debuff immunity.
Right.
Yeah. I think L1, L2 is where you absolutely need him to be highly competitive. If you want to go higher than that, cool, but you don't necessarily need it.
I've been looking into Superman for a very long time, and I unfortunately feel like I picked the wrong order for him, but it's sort of... I mean,
can't hear you.
I was saying that I was looking into Superman for a long time, ever since his rework, and I feel like I've picked his order in the wrong order, because I feel that his greatest asset right now is his heat vision, because his heat vision legendary is so useful right now, right, against the current meta. But then again, it's one of those things that it's very dependent on the situation. So if things shift, then heat vision becomes useless, right? But I
disagree. I think there's always going to be buffs around.
That's true. Okay. That's true. I mean, for me, from my side, what I'm thinking of right now is the traditional order will be 5-4-3 in that order, and like for your first 3 upgrades. So his leadership ability, and then his Kryptonian philosophy, I think, or physiology. That's the name of it, I think. And then his 3, I can't remember what it was though, but it was 5-4-3-2. I think is the order you want. 5-4-3-2-1.
What? I'll take the hits or Kryptonian. I don't
That's
remember.
it. Yeah. So basically, it's 5-4-3-2-1 is the order in that order. So it's a complete reverse order. But I think that his basic with the stun, like 25% to stun, is not bad, but it's definitely not really used. Like, it's not that great. It's kind of like Hawkgirl's stun.
It's not very enticing.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Hawkgirl's stun, but with slightly less percentage, right? So.
One thing I noticed though on defense, that stun is so much better because it seems to proc so much. When I face Supermen that have it, they're always so much nastier.
But this is like, I think this is just like confirmation bias too. This is us feeling like we're getting hosed all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway.
And they were asking in general earlier was about PvP tier lists.
Right. Okay,
Sure.
so those were all the questions for today. Let's wrap things up there, I guess. Before we go, any last words, guys?
Hey, Mel, did you want to go over something?
In particular, I just was saying in chat they're wanting us to give them a personal PvP tier list, but I think that's something I'd rather just post on because that's a long conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be.
We'll just post it on Reddit and link it there. Okay. So, Ogre, anything?
I got nothing other than thanks for listening, guys.
Right.
We have a lot of fun doing this, and hope you enjoy it. So.
Okay. So again, to you guys, for those listening on Discord that have been asking for the links to the Twitter and Facebook and all that, I'll post that just after this. But again, for all of those of you who are listening to this afterwards on the podcast, thanks again for being a regular listener. Your support means a lot to us. You can follow us on social media at Twitter, Facebook, SoundCloud at The Oddsman. Also on Patreon at patreon.com/TheOddsman. There's a lot of different rewards and things there for people who want to help contribute to us, help us grow as a podcast. And we're bringing all this content to you every month, and we're looking towards maybe expanding our content, maybe doing this more frequently based on the level of support we can grab from the community. But you guys have been great. Even if you can't donate and help support us, you can always support us by liking us, subscribing, following to us on YouTube or whatever. And just stay tuned for more updates. And thanks again for listening. So that's all. And until next time, see you guys.
Hey guys, this is Ogre Barbarian of The Oddsman. Wanted to give a huge shout out and thanks to everyone for listening. Catch us when we go live on Discord, and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and SoundCloud at The Oddsman. Feel free to check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/TheOddsman, for a variety of opportunities to help us grow and provide better content. Thanks again for your continued support, and as always, enjoy and grind on.